All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and get started. We still have some people joining, but I think we should get started. Anyway, hello, everyone, and thank you for joining our webinar today entitled How LoRa Alliance members are collaborating to create an end-to-end IoT solution. I'm Chris Massell, the Chief Marketing Officer of TagoIO. Today, Jack Stewart, Director of Marketing for Tectelic, and Fabio Rosa, CEO of TagoIO, will be presenting a joint webinar to discuss the key benefits and differentiators of the LoRaWAN technology, outline the main industries and applications best suited for a LoRaWAN solution, showcase a selection of Tectelic best-in-class LoRaWAN end devices, and feature a few insightful examples of the comprehensive, unique IoT applications being created and deployed by TagoIO. Tectelic and TagoIO will leverage their respective experience as a premier IoT device manufacturer and a provider of dynamic and flexible IoT applications to provide an insightful look into how individuals and businesses can benefit from the deployment of end-to-end IoT solutions. We joined the LoRa Alliance because of their large global IoT LP1 member ecosystem, and they make it easier and faster to deploy IoT solutions, and also to help us create partnerships like what you'll see today. We'll have a Q&A session at the end, probably about 15 minutes, and you can send your questions in throughout the presentation, but we won't be able to answer, obviously, until the end. I do want to remind everyone that we are recording this, so if you would like to review it again, it will be available on both of our websites. I just want to give you a brief overview of our agenda. It is obviously our LoRaWAN technology overview, Tectelic LoRaWAN portfolio overview, and then TagoIO application walkthrough, and then of course about 15 minutes of Q&A. So with that, Jack will be presenting first, so I will hand it over to you, Jack. And again, thank you everyone for joining us.
All right. Thank you very much, Chris, for that great introduction. Hello, everybody. As Chris mentioned, my name is Jack Stewart, and I am the Marketing Director at Tectelic. I'm going to spend the first half of the presentation to accomplish a couple of things. First of all, I'm going to give a brief overview of the LoRaWAN technology, talk about some of the ideal applications and solutions that the technology is a perfect fit for. And then I will also do a little bit of a dive into some of Tectelic's LoRaWAN products and solutions. So to get started here, I have a slide talking about the LoRaWAN architecture. And really, as you can see, there are 4 key components of a LoRaWAN network, moving from left to right. So here we have our sensors, sometimes known as end devices. These are, what you're deploying out in the field to collect data about whatever it is you're looking to collect data on. Those devices transmit to a gateway, which is essentially a data collection hub that is deployed to receive the data from the sensor and then forward it onto your network. Typically, this is done through 3G, 4G, cellular backhaul, sometimes Ethernet. There are even partners in the LoRa Alliance ecosystem who are creating solutions to backhaul this data from gateway to network through satellite. So many different options depending on what your IoT use case is. After the data gets forwarded from the gateway, it goes to what we call a network server. So the network server, I like to say, is kind of the brains behind the operation. So the network server is the place where you are realizing the data that's being collected. So it's in the network server where you determine if a message that you're receiving is indeed from your network. And if it is, you're going to accept that message. If it's not, you're going to reject that message. Any sort of device keys or encryption that takes place in your network is done within the network server. So you are confident that the data that you're collecting with your devices is only being used by the individuals who that data is intended for. Within the network server, you can also, set up thresholds to ensure devices are reporting as you expect, or maybe increase or decrease how often they're reporting. Maybe set up thresholds based on certain events to have devices, trigger a transmission if a certain event occurs, something like that. So it really is kind of the core piece of your LoRaWAN network. And then after the network server, you have your application. So the key idea of any sort of IoT network is collecting data that helps you make smart decisions. Data is obviously useless if you can't make sense of it, if you don't understand it. So the application piece is of course where you visualize the data, organize the data, arrange the data in a way that makes sense for you and your business so that you can make smart decisions based on that data. I'm going to spend the next few minutes focusing on these kind of first three pieces here, and then later on in the webinar, Fabio will be speaking about the application and analytics portion because this is something that Tago does very, very well. So I won't go through all of these technologies in too much detail, but what I really wanted to do was provide some information on where LoRaWAN fits as an LPWAN technology, so a low power wide area network technology. So LoRaWAN operates in the unlicensed frequency band. So in North America, 900 megahertz. In Europe, it's 860 megahertz. In really every country in the world, there's a dedicated portion of the radio communication band that's allocated for these unlicensed technologies. And that's where LoRaWAN sits. So essentially what that means is you don't need to have any sort of cellular contracts, anything like that to start utilizing a LoRaWAN network. The spectrum is there and available for you to use. The data rate with LoRaWAN is quite small, so it's typically under 50 kilobits per second. So LoRaWAN is a technology that is designed to send very small amounts of data, so sensor data, a temperature reading, a humidity reading, whether or not a gate is opened or closed, something like that. You're not going to be sending any sort of high definition images or streaming any video or anything like that. But what LoRaWAN accommodates is very long range communication for sending that information. So it's not uncommon for a LoRaWAN network, specifically an outdoor LoRaWAN network, to have a coverage range of 10 plus kilometers. Maybe it's 10 kilometers, 20 kilometers, even 30 kilometers in ideal deployment conditions. And that range that I'm referring to is the distance from your sensor to your gateway. LoRaWAN is, like most LPWAN technologies, designed for very low power deployments. So it's, again, not uncommon for a LoRaWAN network solution to, or for a LoRaWAN device to be operating on a battery with a multi-year battery life. Since we're sending so little data, as we've mentioned back here, the power requirements are very, very low. And then it's a low cost technology. So I told you about the unlicensed spectrum. You're obviously saving costs there without having to have all of your devices connected to a traditional cellular contract. The fact that it's such a low power technology, you don't have to worry about maintenance or operating costs that would be associated with continuously charging devices or continuously making sure that you're changing out batteries all the time. So there's many factors of the LoRaWAN technology that help to bring those costs down. So really the key message here is, if your wireless IoT solution requires sending small amounts of data, very long distances, utilizing very little power, and cost is of concern to your business, LoRaWAN is an ideal technology for your solution. So here's some of the kind of key network features of a LoRaWAN network. Most of these I spoke about on the last slide, but right in the name. So if you're unfamiliar with LoRaWAN, LoRa stands for long range. So I mentioned that it's not uncommon for a LoRaWAN network to have a coverage range of tens of kilometers from sensor to gateway, which is a very unique aspect of the technology. And it's something that really differentiates the LoRaWAN technology from many of the other wireless options that are out there. I spoke about battery life. So of course, the technology is optimized for users to get as much battery life as possible. Since you're sending such small amounts of data, we can really optimize the battery life of the devices that we're deploying. LoRaWAN is also capable of multi-usage. So what I mean by that is you could have a single gateway deployed in the field connected to thousands or even tens of thousands of sensors at any given time. So it really does accommodate the ability to collect data from a very large area, many devices with a single gateway. Low cost. So I spoke about some of the reasons why it's low cost. It operates in the unlicensed spectrum. Maintenance and operating expenses are low. Hardware costs are quite low. The LoRa Alliance, the ecosystem of partners in the LoRa Alliance have really helped to bring a lot of volume of devices to the market. So it's a very competitive marketplace, which is great for end users who are deploying the technology. Moving to the bottom row here, LoRaWAN is capable of geolocation functionality. And what I mean by that is you can utilize a LoRaWAN network to geolocate or locate the devices that you have deployed in the field, even if those devices are not connected to a traditional geolocation technology, such as GPS or BLE or something like that. And the way that we do that, without getting too technical, is if a LoRaWAN device is deployed in the field and it's within range of 3 or more gateways, you can basically analyze the time that the device or the sensor sent the message. You can evaluate that to the time that message was received by each of the gateways in its vicinity, and you can look at the signal strength of the message as it's being received by each of those gateways and apply calculations to that to get a pretty good sense using triangulation and time division of arrival. You can get a pretty good sense of where that device is physically located when it's deployed out in the field, without having to have any sort of GPS or like I said, BLE or anything like that connected to the device. The next one here is it's bidirectional. So as I've been mentioning, devices talk to gateways, up to the network server, up to your application, but you can go the other way as well. So within your application and within your network server, you can actually push data back down to your sensors. Where that's important is, let's say you want your devices to transmit more frequently or less frequently, or you want to set up different thresholds of when your devices are transmitting. You can enter all of that information in your application and push it down to your device. If you have any software updates or firmware updates or patches or anything else that you would need to push down to your device without actually having to go physically touch the device, LoRaWAN enables that as well. So a very powerful feature of LoRaWAN is the bidirectional communication. It's a global standard. So I mentioned earlier that almost every country in the world allocates a certain part of their radio spectrum for this, what we call ISM band, industrial, scientific, medical, which is unlicensed band. So there are companies in countries all over the world deploying LoRaWAN solutions today. You don't have to look any further than going on the LoRa Alliance website, checking out the member list and seeing where all the members are located, and you'll get a pretty good sense right away that LoRaWAN really is being deployed everywhere, which is great. So it's a global standard. And then the last one, as is the case with any wireless network, security is key. So there always needs to be a way to ensure that the data that you're collecting is only available to those who it's intended for. And the LoRa Alliance ensures that there are, many different many different standards in place to ensure that security piece is being met. All right, so I'm going to move kind of away from talking about the technology and into more about what Tectelic specifically is doing with LoRaWAN. So as I mentioned, there's 4 key components here: end devices, gateways, network server, applications. I'm going to spend a few minutes here and focus on the end devices. So this here is, our portfolio of all the different devices we have. I'm not going to go through each device specifically, but really what I want to showcase is that whether you're working with Tectelic or you're working with any of the other device vendors in the LoRaWAN ecosystem, no matter what solution you're looking to solve, there's likely a device that's available for you to help with your IoT requirements. So I mean, some of the key industries that Tectelic focuses on are smart cities and buildings. So for example, our smart room sensor, smart AC outlet and switch, cold room temperature sensor. We have solutions with smart agriculture, such as our agriculture sensor. We have asset tracking solutions kind of up at the top here with a GPS asset tracker, BLE asset tracker. We even have device solutions that have been developed specifically in response to COVID. Down at the bottom here, looking at our distance guard devices, which are specifically contact tracing devices, our armband body temperature sensor, our chest-worn respiratory sensor. So really, many different applications across many different industries that can be solved by a LoRaWAN device, either from Tectelic or any of the members of the LoRaWAN ecosystem today. For this presentation specifically, or for this webinar, we're going to focus on some of the smart building solutions. You'll see later on in the webinar, Fabio will run through a demonstration of TagoIO's platform, that application platform specifically addressing some smart building solutions. And some of the devices that TagoIO has integrated into their platform, I'm going to share with you here. So this first one is our smart room sensor. For those of you who know about Tectelic, you probably know about this device. This is kind of one of our, what I would say, flagship devices. It's a very small device. It's about 1.5 inches by 1.5 inches in size. And this tiny little device is capable of all of these different functions that you see on the left-hand side here. So, temperature, humidity, movement detection. So if you're to place this, inside of a drawer, every time the drawer opens and closes, it can monitor that for you. We have a passive infrared lens for motion detection. We have motion detection in sort of many different environments, whether it's a large room, a small corridor, even like a small desk space. You can do G-force measurement. So not only can you measure movement, but you can measure the intensity of the impact of that movement as well. Light detection, whether lights are turned on and off. Moisture leak detection. So if you have this deployed under a toilet or a sink or a hot water tank or something like that, if a leak event occurs, you can be notified right away. On-off external contact, on-off internal magnetic switch. So if you're to mount this on a door or a window with a magnet, you can tell if the door is open or closed. Pulse reading even. So if you're to connect this to a water meter, you could, count the pulses and send that up into your network. So really any sort of thing that you're trying to monitor in an indoor environment, the smart room sensor can be a useful device for you. We also have a BLE asset tracker. So this is one of our other smart building solutions that Fabio will talk about a little bit later in the presentation. Essentially, this device is used for locating the assets that you have deployed in an indoor environment. So the device integrates Bluetooth Low Energy with LoRaWAN. The BLE component basically talks to beacons that you'd have deployed, maybe it's in a hospital or in a warehouse or your office, to understand physically where the device is located. And then that coordinate, I will say, is sent up into your network through LoRaWAN. So maybe you're a hospital and you're looking to track where your medical carts are. Maybe you're a warehouse and you're looking to track where your forklift is. Any of these sort of applications, the BLE Asset Tracker is an ideal device for. And then one of our newer devices, which is going to be available kind of in volume production here by the end of the year, is our cold room sensor. So this is a very simple device, but a very powerful device. It's a temperature monitoring device that's designed to be deployed in, commercial cold chambers. So maybe it's a restaurant refrigeration unit or a supermarket refrigeration area, or a medical facility refrigeration area, vaccine storage, that sort of thing. The device is designed to detect temperature down to -40 degrees and then, send that data out into your network so that you can be, notified right away if temperatures are increasing to a level of concern and react accordingly. So that's our cold room temperature sensor. Again, the reason why I wanted to quickly tell you about these three devices is because later on, Fabio is going to show you the TagoIO application platform, which has specifically integrated these three devices into it. Tectelic also is very, very adept at the gateway design and manufacturing piece as well. So again, if any of you are familiar with Tectelic, you'll know that when it comes to the IoT space, the LoRaWAN space, this really has been our core business. This is something that we feel that we do very, very well. We've developed, as you can see here, a very comprehensive portfolio of LoRaWAN gateways for any sort of deployment environment, any sort of deployment conditions that you could have. The ones on the top here are the outdoor gateways. These are what we refer to as, carrier grade gateways that are designed to be hung, in an outdoor environment, up on a telecom tower, sit up there for 20 years without ever having to touch it. One thing that we pride ourselves in at Tectelic is the interference mitigation design approach that we've taken to design these gateways. So we ensure that these gateways can be co-located near, competing radio technology. And we've put, filtering technology in place to ensure that any sort of interference that could occur by being located to, competing radios is going to be mitigated to ensure that we have the highest performance possible. We even have gateways that are designed for, very specific deployments, such as, strand mount gateways for deployment on a cable strand, mobile gateway for deployment on a truck, train, ship, airplane, if you need to bring the LoRaWAN network with you rather than just having it in a fixed space. We also have some of our more indoor gateways, indoor design gateways on the bottom here. These gateways are designed for, very high scalability, plug and play operation, basically to get started with LoRaWAN as quickly as possible and provide, deep penetrating indoor coverage in your office or your home or your warehouse or wherever it is that you're setting up your network. Then the final piece that I'm just going to spend a minute on here is the network server piece. So as I mentioned earlier in the presentation, the network server is kind of the, the brains of the operation. This is where you are accepting the messages that are being transmitted by your device and, decoding them so that you can start to make sense of them. Creating thresholds or setting up, different events that you want your devices to report based on. So Tectelic does have its own network server as well, which we call the Kona Core Network Server. It includes many different products, including what we call our Kona Element OANM server, which is Operations, Administration, and Management Server, which is a tool that is designed to help you, update all of the gateways that you have deployed in your network, um, analyze the performance of all of the gateways that you have deployed in your network, basically keep tabs on the performance of your network as a whole from a gateway perspective. Now, the biggest reason why Tectelic developed, kind of moved away from hardware and developed the network server piece was to allow our customers to get up and running with their own LoRaWAN networks right away. So if a customer came to us and said, hey, we have this requirement for a LoRaWAN solution, but we need to, get on it right now, Tectelic has the ability to provide, the entire end-to-end solution. But in saying that, we pride ourselves at Tectelic at working very, very hard to ensure that all of the hardware, so devices and gateways that we develop, are interoperable with any LoRaWAN network server. So whether it's Senet or Laureate or the Things Network or OrbiWise or really any of the major network servers out there, Tectelic works very hard to ensure that all of our hardware can be completely and seamlessly operated with those network servers as well. Because, of course, our primary goal is to remove any barriers for people to adopt the technology and, of course, accelerate the technology adoption. So, with that being said, the last piece is the application piece. I'm going to now flip the webinar over to Fabio because, like I mentioned, this is Tago's bread and butter here. So we'll let Fabio give us a rundown on the cool things Tago is doing with LoRaWAN applications.
Okay, thank you very much, Jack. Just a second, I'll set up my environment here. I hope you can see my screen now. Okay. All right. So thank you again, Jack. I'm very excited to be here in this work with Tectelity. That's a great opportunity given that we recently joined LoRa Alliance community and we see value by working together. As you understand, we are focused on the cloud platform side and the software side. And our goal is really to make sure that the developers and business can extract information from the sensors and bring it to the business to make sense of that information. So it's very important to be connected, and LoRa Alliance really allow us to go there and beyond. So let me talk directly about the ecosystem. So that's about Tago, but it really, frankly, is not that different in a far looking for the platforms and how to connect the things. So what we have here is the micro diagram of the connectivity. So if you go start from the left, that's the sensor, and want to bring this information to the business, that's in the right side, we have some components here in the middle. As Jack mentioned before, we have the sensor. Then if the sensor, for example, is connected to the LoRa protocol, it passes through a gateway, and this gateway go to our network server. And at the Tago, we connected with several different network servers. So Tectelic is one of them. So if you get their sensors and gateway and network, you will be able to collect this information directly and bring it to your account at the TagoIO. If you use a different network server, as Jackie mentioned, what they provide is not only to run with their server, they can run with any of these servers, like Evernet, the Things Network, Tectelic, OrbiWise, and so on. You can also take advantage of that. Also, with Tago, you are able to combine information. Maybe you have information that's coming from a LoRaWAN sensor. That's great. But maybe you have additional information that's coming from a sensor that's connected through Wi-Fi or Bluetooth. You can do this in the same application, by the way. Then information coming to the application side, right? TagoIO. And here is where we're going to develop your application, and you're going to be prepared for visualization and integration. And of course, you can process the data here as well. In the integration side, what you have are things that is already done in the market that you can take advantage. For example, if you want to use, get the data from a spreadsheet, or CRM in the market, or open a ticket using Zendesk, you can do that with Tago. So that's a very good way to integrate things, because we really believe that nowadays with the digital transformation, it's very important companies to be directly integrated and using a speed to deliver things. So you can also integrate with the enterprise version in your company. Let's say that you already have a system, right? Normally companies have a system or ERP system. And many times companies don't want to create everything from the beginning, change the workflow because this demands training and so on. So maybe you want to create the solution with Tago and send the information to the enterprise, to the system that your employees are already using. So that can be a very good deal. And then, of course, the tool is for developers, okay? Developers, operators, they can use the TagoIO. But you are end user, that you probably your customer, he or she is going to use the TagoRun. I'm going to show you this in 1 minute. So let me talk about the key components. When you think about a platform, we always think about these key components. Okay, there are more, but these simplify pretty well the cloud solution. First, device management. This device management is really a complement to the device management in the network server. So if you talk about LoRa, you're going to register your device in the network server and put the keys and make sure everything is safe and the device is registered. And here, you'll be able to track the utilization of this device, activate the device, and associate this device with our user, for example. Then also in the platform, you have the data storage. We call buckets, data buckets. You can store the data here at Tago by default. You can keep it for the time you want. Let's say you want to keep the data for 7 days. Yep, you're gonna be there for 7 days, and then after that, it's gonna be removed. Or maybe you want to get this data and communicate with your local database. That's also a possibility. One very important feature of Tago is the analysis. We call analysis. It's that area where you can add scripts in JavaScript or in Python language, or even in any other language if you run in your own server, to treat this data in real time. Okay, in a fraction of a second, you can make sense of this data and generate reports. You can do some maths. You can add machine learning. So there are a lot of things you can do here with the analysis. Then you have the dashboard, and the dashboard is where you, of course, you're going to prepare the visualization for your users. And the way it works is not only to show data, but also get data. I'll show you later a form example. So you can have your customers typing things and getting things related to the device, maybe not even related to the device. And that will be available for a browser or the mobile app. The other important part that really goes beyond the IoT side is the user management and the access management. So we think that companies need to deploy this solution. They needed to expand. They needed to manage their users, and we have a lot of tools for that. And the last one, but not least, is the white label. So you can add your brand, your domain, and so on. I'm going to show you here in a minute. So how you do that? I think that's important for this meeting. Make sure that people understand the steps and then not only see things up and running. So basically there are 2 steps. First is build your application. So with a Tago, you are able to build your application. If you sign up now, even for free, you are able to build 5 dashboards and connect 5 devices. So if you go to the admin page, you see these tools: device management, storage, analytics, notifications, integrations, and so on. So that's for the developers, so to build the application. After that, you need to customize and deploy this application. We have the tools: user management, access management, user engagement. I'm going to show you later that you can understand how your users or the end users are access your platform, because sometimes you will realize that the customers design a solution, but they don't know if their end users are really using how much they are using. And of course, you can use what you call the run model to deploy your application and add your own brand. How this looks like to be something like that. You're going to brand it your solution at the end of the day. Okay, so a Tago allows you to do that. And by the way, you can start this at no cost and have most of this feature ready for you at no cost. First is a custom domain. So you don't want your users going to admin.tago.io. They can go to your portal. Okay, let's say that you are my company, so your portal.mycompany.com. So you can customize the emails, you can change the colors, logo, like here you can see a real example of this Acme company with this background picture, favicon for the browser, but also for the mobile app. And you can even link to the pages. I'll show you, for example, how you can get these and link, help your customer to find your customer support team, for example. And remember that I mentioned that IoT, of course, is extremely important, but one thing that's important on top of that is make sure that you understand how your users are interacting with your application. So in this case here, we have models that you call user engagement. We integrate for Google Analytics. So you can really in minutes go to Google Analytics, create an account for free, and get the token there and copy from there, paste it here, and immediately you're gonna see how your end users are using your platform and understand where they're from, how long they are using your application, and what kind of a device they're running your application. Also integrate with Zoho. Zoho is a CRM system, customer relationship management system, that allows you to get similar information like Google Analytics, but also they provide a chatbot, for example. So if you want to give you support in real time for a customer, take this in consideration. And everything here is really integrated at no additional cost. Before going to the demo part here, quickly I would like to talk about some key features at the Tago that I believe add a lot of values and sometimes people are not aware. First is that you can always use the analysis or even a button inside of the dashboard to allow your end user to download the file in CSV format. That would be like Excel, right? But you also can generate a PDF report, very beautiful PDF reports like this one here, just one example. We have it in our community. You can access now, get the, the snapshot of the code, snapshot, and get these and put in your analysis. So you can create PDF report like this very quickly. And you can brand it the way you want, change everything. So what your customer are gonna receive here, you'll be basically the result of your creativity and how much time you put on the creation for the PDF. Then, of course, you can define when this customer is going to receive the PDF. It will be every day, every hour, or every week, and which triggers are going to trigger the email to send this PDF. Other things that we have the forms, and the form is very interesting because this allows the users to input data. In this case, for example, you can see they are inputting here company name, address, also contact name and plan, but you can put whatever you want here. My point is you can combine IoT data with data from the company or the user. So our database is not suitable only for sensors. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the integration between Tectelic and TagoIO. Okay. So basically, you need to follow some steps to register your device in the gateway. Let's say that in this case, you are using Tectelic network server. So you need to create the devices there. You need to create the application, okay? And then you need to add what is followed in the red color here, authorization code. This authorization comes from your account at Tago. So you just need to click there and generate the authorization. You get this authorization and paste inside of your Tectelic account. That's gonna generate a link authorization that you just need to do this one time. If you have one device or 10,000 devices, you just do this once. Then for each device that you have, let's say device is a physical device that has specific EUI, you need to input in Tago later. That's gonna close the loop and keep things safe, secure. Here you can see in this page, and I'll show you later in a second, you see a list of devices that are already available at TagoIO portal. Okay, let me spend a couple of minutes here in our platform so you can understand a little bit how things can be done in the practical side. Okay, so I am here inside an account, and this account has this sensor, that the home sensor that Jack showed 10 minutes ago. You can see here that you can build something like that. That's very, let's say, technical, really nice, but that's one way to present things, right? I have here in the office right now the sensor with me, and I changed the magnets here, removed the magnet like I just did it, so it can sense magnet. Can sense the temperature, the humidity, battery in graphic. You can edit it the way you want. So that's really nice. You can do this very easily. How you do that, basically, is by adding a device here. So if you go to the server, add a device, and you select the devices from Tectelic, for example, you can see here the list of devices available. We are adding more and more devices as we move forward, like devices that are coming in the next months. They will be available here. So basically what you need to do is select network server and then select the device. So for example, in this case, if you wanted this device, the home sensor, you just need to give a name for the device, enter the AY and create. When you create it, that will be ready to go. That's interesting, but let's talk a little bit about real application. So if you have a customer in the business, you want to do something a little bit different. So that's one way to present data. In this case here, you can see temperature, humidity, the chart. You can add the form. You can add input for time to turn on, turn off heaters, or get the name of the people that show up in the meetings, or count people, things like that. In this case, you needed to build this dashboard like I did here. And then, remember I mentioned before about the branding. In this case, let's say that we have here customization done for this URL. So if you click here, I am now as a customer, okay? I'm not here as a developer. So these colors here on the top, and the visualization, the authorization, and the buttons are everything customized by myself as a developer, but now it's available for anyone that want to access the data. So here I can have even a selection of the sensors. That's a nice way to start to scale. For example, I can have information from one sensor in a small room, or in the other sensor in other place. We have a documentation explain how to do this. Normally it takes like half an hour to set up the tags for to make sure that you link the devices with the user. And the other thing that's very interesting is that you are able to allow your user to add the devices. For example, if the user wants to add another device, okay, he or she doesn't need to go to Tago, of course, and find it for the device and get things complex. They can easily come here and add the device. Okay, for example, I just added the device in the kitchen as a user, and the device is here. If you want to get this more complete, more, let's say, complex, based on your real application at the end of the day, you just need to add more fields. Let's say that you have 2 or 3 devices to pick. What you can do is add the option here, like select the device. This is a form. That means that you can do really basically whatever you want to get inputs from your customer. Other thing that's very important, you can customize the buttons here that allows you to add information. For example, from your company, I just did it here quickly. I add the Tectelic support page. So if that makes sense, you can add this inside of your platform, okay? Let me show you another example now. We have several here, but just because of the time, I'm gonna just show another one very quickly related to indoor tracking. Okay, so this one here is using the principle of the BLE asset tracker. Jack has shown before, Tectelic offers very nice tracker that in one specific model is composed by two radio. One is the LoRa that will be able to get the information from the tracker and send, for example, to a gateway into Tago. And on the other side of the sensor, they have a BLE, Bluetooth reader that are going to be reading the radio signal of the beacons around. So how that's work basically is this is at the end of the day able to give here for each floor, for example, in this example, I have 2 floors, the location for people inside a building, okay? As we know, with the GPS is almost impossible, it's not reliable when working indoor. So beacon is a very good solution. There are others, but beacon is pretty good solution. So in this case, you can see a very simple dashboard here that represent 2 floors of the building. And I uploaded these floor plans here, but you can allow your user to upload more. For example, can upload 5 or 10 floors, or maybe different warehouse, or we have a case where you present this in a subway, for example. How that's work? That is a small script that we have here in the analysis that allows you to get the configuration of the sensor. For example, you enter a beacon is the BLE device, you have the number, okay? When you add this, the beacon will be available to be adding your floor here. You select the floor that you want. For example, I wanted this in the ground because I just have 2, and then I can add here the beacon. When I added the beacon here, I'm defining the location for that beacon. And the way it works here is that when the person, or in this case, the reality is that the tracker that is with a person or if an asset pass close to the beacon, it reads that information and send this to Tago, and the Tago is gonna match the ID of the beacon with the registration done here. And then that's gonna move people around. So that's one way to show, for example, this new asset is here, Mary is here. And the reason they are here is because we determine the location of the beacons. So with this example, you can have this visualization, you can have different layers, and then also you can have scripts. Just to finalize here, just want to say that we have the script capability, and with this script, you are able to add a code that can be short, can be very complex, that can get statistics for you. For example, when the person left the area, how many times, how long the person stayed there, or the asset, or send me alerts, and so on. So that's a very good way to present information. I will stop here because of the time now. We really still want to have time to answer questions. So Chris, I'll be back to you. I believe there are questions around, so my part here for now is closed. If somebody has questions, of course, it'll be open.
Yeah, thank you, Jack and Fabio, for your presentations. They were wonderful. So I have a few questions here. So one of them says, I apologize, I came in a little late. Jack may have covered this, but can I use Tectelic sensors combined with other gateway manufacturers?
Yeah, so absolutely. So that's one thing that we and most of the members of the LoRa Alliance try very hard to do is ensure that any piece of the LoRaWAN architecture is completely interoperable with all of the other pieces. So you can absolutely mix and match all of the components. So you could have a device from vendor A, a gateway from vendor B, a network server from vendor C, and utilize vendor D for the application. You definitely aren't locked in to using the same device vendor as gateway vendor for sure.
Okay, great, thank you. Another question, does TagoIO charge per device connected, or more broadly, how do we pay for services?
Okay, yeah, we don't charge per device itself. we charge per the provision that the customers define. So if you go to our page, tago.io/pricing, you'll be able to see our plan. Our plans price are open, so that you need to select how many data inputs you want. For example, if you send 10 variables per hour and you have 1,000 devices, so it's like 10,000 variables per hour. So you determine how much you need and you do the provision for the month. So more details in the tago.io/pricing.
Okay, thank you. We have a question from Ted from Ireland. Hello, Ted from Ireland. Is there an API exposed in Tago?
Yeah, we do have, that's a great question. Frankly, we have APIs for everything. If you want to create a device, you get the user. If you want to list devices, send the data, receive the data, you have API. If you, when you create an account at the Tago, there is a question mark on the top right. You can go there and type APIs, and you're gonna see our documentation. We have SDK as well in different language that you can use it to speed up your development.
Okay, we have another question. Can you talk about the range of the BLE tracker? Wondering how many of these devices I would need for our university building.
For sure. So if we're looking at the range of the tracker to the gateway itself, that's going to completely depend on the size of the building. Typically, what we see with our indoor gateways is you can typically get in an indoor environment approximately 700 meters in radius of range, and then 4 to 6 stories of kind of a concrete structure, just to kind of give you an idea of the LoRaWAN range. Now, the range in terms of the device talking to the Bluetooth beacons that you have deployed, that will completely, again, depend on which beacons that you're using, but really the higher density of beacons that you're deploying, the more accurate positioning you're going to get with the tracker. So it again depends on how accurate you're looking to get. Typically, if you had one beacon per room type of thing, that would be sufficient if you were just simply looking to track what room a specific device was in. So I hope that helps.
We have another question from John. Do you have any energy harvesting solutions for your sensors? I have locations that are dangerous to get to, and I do not want to go and replace batteries.
So it depends on the device that you're looking at. So like I mentioned, we have a large portfolio of devices, and we do have some of our devices, particularly the industrial devices, that are capable of being powered in alternative ways rather than batteries. So through external powering or through solar or whatever is available. So we would really need to dive into your particular application, but the short answer is yes. There are alternative ways to power the devices. If you would like more information on that, you can contact info@tektelic.com, and if you provide a little bit of information about your specific application, we can definitely provide some recommendations for you.
Okay, another one from Tulio. What are the industrial protocols Tectelic supports?
So that one again depends on the device or the gateway that we're speaking with. For that question, maybe I'll encourage the person asking to contact me directly or contact info@tektelic.com. So we can. It would take me a long time to go through all of them. So.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So another question from Shaitanya. Can we connect PLC controllers with Tago? And can we automate machine operations using analytic modeling?
Yeah, you can. Yeah, PLC in this case, there are some options. You can go again, take a look in our documentation. We have something like a vNode integration. And also some devices, and I'm pretty sure Tectelic as well, they have the Modbus protocol, so that these Modbus can be used to communicate with your machine. And the other side come through LoRa. If that works, that can be a great option.
Okay. Another question from Assad. Can you share all the cut sheets for your sensors and gateways?
Absolutely. So Assad, if you go to our website, tektelic.com, and go to the IoT tab, you'll be able to download all of the spec sheets for all of the devices and all of the gateways.
Great. I have another question from Zoltan. Is TagoIO able to manage asset information, meaning the location where an actual device or devices are deployed within, example, a room or a barn?
Yeah, for sure. We have the database that's able to collect this information from the sensor itself, and also is able to collect additional information. For example, if we add describe where the sensor is and put it, for example, in a map or in a floor plan, you are with the analytics, you are able to combine both, so you know exactly where the sensor is. Of course, that's dependent on precision of the sensor itself, but from the analytics part, you are able to do that.
Great. I have a question from Gopal. What is the price for external gateway?
Yeah, so again, we showed a very wide portfolio of gateways there, so it completely depends on the gateway, but the prices do range in US dollars from, for the smaller, more indoor gateways from around 100 to 125 US dollars, right up to, about 3,000 US dollars. Completely depending on which gateway you choose. So again, if you'd like more information about a specific gateway, we'd be happy to share it with you. Just contact info@tektelic.com and we can provide you with everything you need.
Okay, I have a question from Nijrani. Do you have a guideline on sensor availability? We've had issues with your Agra sensor.
So in terms of availability, I'm not sure if you're asking about availability of of acquiring the device. If so, just please speak with your Tectelic sales rep. But regarding the agriculture sensor specifically, on our support portal, support.tektelic.com, we do have what we call application notes, which are basically deployment recommendation guidelines of how to deploy the device, depending on your environment, if it's a shady environment or a sunny environment, that sort of thing. So if that's what you're referring to, you can check out support.tektelic.com. If you're asking something else and I'm not understanding, please just contact your Tectelic sales rep or info@tektelic.com and we will help you out.
Then we have two more questions, one from Ricardo, and he says, Fabio, I think you didn't mention the geofencing feature from Tago, which is a great feature in this pandemic period to isolate groups of coworkers in the enterprise industry environment.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Appreciate it. There are so many features I had no time to see, to present to you. But yes, we do have geofence, and that can really do very, amazing things. Not like just if inside or outside the region, but like a combination of things. So depending on the situation, context, you can make the decision. And also note that I didn't completely answer the question from somebody ago asking about analytics capability. So there are a lot of analytics capability that you can combine and integrate with Tago, or you can use web services to get something else that's already in the market. Just to put it clear, if you have interest, you can set up a demo meeting. If you go to our website, on the top you see demo. We'll be glad to spend, with you, 30 minutes or so to understand what you need, because there are so many options. And again, this comes to discussion with Tectelic and LoRa Alliance. There are so many applications that's hard to get and explain here everything that's possible to do. So feel free to set up a meeting with us.
And I have the last question from Yotendra. How can I get the devices or independent modules available in India and at what price? I am doing some POC with the same.
Sure. So yeah, so all of our devices are available for the Indian market. Um, uh, Again, depending on the device, it will depend on the price. So if you you can contact myself directly, or you can contact info@tektelic.com, and our sales rep who manages the Indian region can help you out for sure.
Great. Well, thank you. And that's all we have time for. If you do have additional questions, please send them to the email addresses that are on the screen, and we'd be happy to answer them for you. Again, thanks everyone for joining us, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.